Well, I intended to make this a while back, but I just couldn't get around to it. But this video, we're going to look at the next manga installments of Star Wars Visions and The Mandalorian. So as I did with the previous video, got the Big Gan Gan for, came out at the end of June, so this is the July version. And here in the back of the table of contents, we have Star Wars Visions, and this is Star Wars Mandalorian. Unfortunately, because it's the second installment, we don't get Star Wars graced on the cover, even though the cover itself is pretty interesting. This is Higurashi no Naku Koru ni Rei? Yeah, Rei. But it's the Star Wars Visions this time around is Lop and Ocho. So I made a little bookmark here of these. These were some of these special cards that were at the theaters. No, sold at 7-Eleven when Rise of Skywalker came out. So it's a first order version. Kylo Ren and Stormtrooper. But let's get started. So with Lop and Ocho, it starts right at this, I believe it's at the end, where Lop has been fighting with her older sister Ocho in an attempt to get her to stop from joining forces with the Empire and basically sealing the fate of the planet to continue its slow descent as the Empire strips it of its resources. But so really nice action shots here, right from the get-go. You have her up here crawling out for her sister. Then you go straight to explosion, and then there's, looks like, I think that's her father. Yeah, that's the father there in the background. And then their TV droid, and she's like saying "Keiko wa nai? Oh, yokatta, yokatta," which means you hurt? You hurt? Oh no, that's great. Good. So, and then she picks up the droid there, and here the story comes down. And here at the end, she says, "We can't leave any of our family behind." I really like this shot of the Star Destroyer over the burning platform. And then here is our main cover page for this one. This is Star Wars Visions. Ninrai, I think that's how you read that. Yeah. Ninrai omonzuru shimai no yukue wa. So what fate lies ahead for our two sisters, each with their own sense of conviction and justice. You see this Ninrai a lot in Yakuza movies, and type of, it's kind of like a sense of chivalry, sense of like a code, an ethic, and which kind of makes sense because the family here is basically modeled off of like a Edo period style Yakuza family. And I mean, traditionally these Yakuza, they're different from the Yakuza of today, but they're kind of the outsiders of Japanese society. In the Edo period, they didn't belong to any specific clan. They weren't samurai. There's a Japanese scholar by the name of Matsuoka Seigo who has talked about this concept of the outsider in Japanese society, and there's consistently been this enclave of outsiders. And the Yakuza at that time kind of would like take all these people in, and it continued into the 20th century. You had a lot of Japanese born Koreans who were brought to Japan or had immigrated to Japan when Korea was part of the Japanese Empire. It's a long history, I won't get into it, but anyway, with Lop and Ocho and seeing this character here and thinking of the connotations and how it's been used in Yakuza films and whatnot. It's a nice reinforcement of how Lop as a character was an outsider. She wasn't from that planet. She somehow had been brought to that planet. And then here she's taken in by Ocho's family. So it's a really, really cool touch. Another thing, if we get close to the art here, aesthetically, this might be one of the visions that, aside from Akakiri and The Village Bride, is got the most really, like, just jumps right out at you Japanese aesthetic. I mean, this is obviously, at least to me, cherry blossoms, and in the back here we got this gate, which is modeled after the tori, which, since it's flat at the top, this signifies that it is more of a, if I'm correct, Shinto, so a shrine gate. The shrines and temples, shrine would be for Shinto and temple would be for Buddhism, are similar, but sometimes these gates are a little bit curved a bit, but this is more typical of what you would see at a shrine, this type of gate. But that's neither here nor there. And there's that really cool lightsaber. That's really gorgeous. And here we have the, well, it says under the direction of Lucasfilm. The person who wrote the original story is Walt Disney Company, and then, excuse me, the manga artist is a person by the name of Haruichi. Okay, so let's get into it. Sorry for that long explanation there. But yeah, this is a great little shot. The Imperial Star Destroyer coming down onto the planet. Really cool. I don't remember in the actual vision if there's a similar shot to this, but I like how his face is obscured. You don't get to see his eyes. A lot of times in manga, a lot of things are conveyed with the expression in the eyes, like you see here on this page. This, you see no eyes here, you see no eyes there, because the stormtroopers have got the helmets covered. So it creates a very nice, sinister touch. And then this is just so cool, because naturally your focus goes here, and then when you go down, it's like leading through, and you see explosion and this gate out. That's a really cool touch. And then here's a little bit explanation. 帝国の開発で他の自然環境は汚染され、自然と伝授を重んじるタオの住民は銀河帝国への不満を連なせていた。So yeah, says the arrival of the empire, and with it technological development has polluted the natural environment of Tao, and the people of Tao are ones that cherish their tradition and nature, and because of what the empire has done, they are growing a bit dissatisfied with their presence. And then we go here, and then, like I said before, look at the eyes. That's where everything is conveyed. All these characters have really, really incredible looks in their eyes. And then there's Lop saying, Papa, Otosan. Now, in the English version, when her dad talks, I don't think, I actually didn't watch this in English. I only watched it in Japanese because it just didn't feel right to me to watch it in English. But what I really like here in Japanese, and this is something that I was discussing with some Japanese Star Wars fans, when you watch Star Wars in English, you have different accents. You have people from the UK, you got a British sounding accent, you'll get an American sounding accent, then you'll get like a non-native speaker type accent, which really is a nice way of creating a sense of diversity just through dialogue alone in the English version of Star Wars. And in Japanese, a lot of times the dub has everybody speaking what's called hyojungo. Hyojungo is just standard Japanese dialect. It's what all the kids are taught at school. And so, like, people from the country who would move to Tokyo, they wouldn't speak their local dialect. They would, if they're interacting with people here, they're going to speak hyojungo. But with this guy, the father, he's got a very distinct regional dialect. I'm not exactly sure. It's more of like a Western Japan. I want to say somewhere in Shikoku or Kyushu, but it's very, very, very interesting dialect. And so I like that they used it in his speech throughout the entire Vision short. And you just, like an example here, and he says, Teikoku jaro ga. More Hyojungo would be like, instead of jaro, it'd be daro, or a little bit more polite version, desho. But, so it's a very, and then he's talking about washira. So, washira is a plural for we, but like, there's more like standard version be like watashi tachi or bokura wa, but he's doing like a washira wa. And then shimotoru, shimotoru. I mean, it's just really, I love it because it adds a bit of flavor, and it is able to give the Japanese a sense of that like variety that we take for granted when we hear all the different accents in English. So, and then another thing about the character design of this guy, he's got that scar over his face. He reminds me of the Japanese actor Sonny Chiba. Well, in Japan he's known as Chiba Shinichi. He was, unfortunately, he passed away a year or two ago. And he was in, just going back to the Yakuza thing, he was in a lot of movies with Yakuza characters in the 60s, 70s. And he did a lot of like action movies in Japan. He was beloved by like Quentin Tarantino, which is why Tarantino had him play Hattori Hanzo in Kill Bill. But when I saw this character, it instantly reminded me his facial features of Chiba Shinichi, and also his hairstyle and the look is very similar to a popular representation of a samurai character by the name of Yagi Jubei. And he was associated with family responsible for teaching the shogunate kenjutsu, how to fight. But Jubei supposedly was he marched to the beat of his own drum, kind of a lone wolf. Really popular character in Japanese folklore. Yeah, and then here we get the two arguing again. And it's just, but it's really fascinating because he's speaking with this really strong regional dialect, whereas the daughter is speaking more of a standard dialect in Japanese. And so this is, again, it's kind of mimicking the conflict, not mimicking, reflecting the conflict, the greater conflict going on the planet of Tao. You have the father who is representative of the people of Tao. He's speaking his local dialect. He's very proud of his traditions and the identity that they have there, whereas she is speaking the standard dialect that's showing that she's trying to immerse herself in more of the broader galaxy. She wants to be part of the broader imperial collective, and so she's kind of abandoned that regional identity that she has on Tao. And then here we got Lop getting into this. It's this kind of a comical cell here because Lop looks just so happy and kind of playful, and then once again the closed eyes, she's like, oh, I got myself too involved there. Yeah, but man, just the intensity and the facial expressions with this artist I really like. everything just so well done. You get that sense of conflict between the parents. Really, really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Okay. So I better move forward here. So yeah, here we got the daughter saying how the Empire's brought technology and it's gonna improve the civilization and standard of living in the planet. And the conflict continues. The expression, this is really cool. The portrayal of the speaker bikes, and just very indicative of manga and how able to use these lines to create a sense of motion. It's a static image, but yet the lines are going across. It does a fantastic job of showing these things are in motion. Okay, go on. So, yep. Keep going here. Really nice switch between the road, long shot of them speeding away, then conversation inside the speeder. Multiple different angles. And you really like that. Shows from one side to the other. Okay. Next. And then here, finally, we get to see this guy's face. And he just looks so sinister. It's a really, really good look. You get the standoff here. And I'm sorry if I'm going a little fast in these parts because pretty much everybody knows the story. Yep, and then now she's saying that she's going to join up with the Imperials. Yep. 開発計画に参加してはどうかな. Yeah, you want to be part of our plan of development. It's such cool. I think the symbolism here is, and when she cuts her hair, it's like she's literally severing her ties with what she identified with as a person from the planet of Tau. And just the look on Lop's face is just great. And there she goes. She's letting it go. And then once again, you got the great lines showing the ship going up. Look at that face, just pure anguish. Oops. Distraught over the family, the important part. Okay. And this is here where I might get into a little bit more explanation again, but here we have those gates again. If anybody's ever played Ghost of Tsushima, you probably recognize this because one of the features of the game is you come across these shrines and then you got to make your way through these shrines, and they're always up on kind of like an elevated place, which in many old shrines in Japan are actually like this, and this is something you see in The Village Bride and Star Wars Visions, but traditionally, before Buddhism came to Japan, it was just Shinto, and mountains themselves would be revered as like these deities. There's a famous mountain in our region here in western Tokyo called Mitake-san, Mount Mitake. And there's actually a shrine at the top of the mountain, like is shown here. But I think it's kind of interesting that they take this like shrine approach, but then where they're living at is very typical of what's called a yashiki, which would be the abode of like a samurai lord. And I really love this picture because this is so Japanese. You got a guy sitting there, and it looks like he's drinking nihonshu, Japanese sake, and this is what we would call tokuri, which is what you traditionally put sake in, and then he's got the little tiny cup, which is called ochoko, and that's what you would drink sake out of. Yep, he's got the ochoko right there. So this is so Japanese, but again, it doesn't feel out of place at all. It just feels like a natural Star Wars world. Really, really good stuff. And having a conversation about Ocho going off and joining the Empire, and the father's just like, he's accepting it. And again, it's just that great regional dialect. もう力作ってもうやめさせるって。Yeah, really cool stuff. Oh, there's the tokuri and the ochoko. And then again, there's a lot of this stuff is just really focused on the eyes. I really like that. I mean, able to convey that emotion. And you don't, I mean, you can, just looking at the picture and you can hear it. Ah, it's a sweet decoy. Come with me. This thing in the back, actually, wait. Better to show it here. This is seen in a lot of older Japanese, even some Japanese houses today still have it, but it's what's called a tokonoma. It's an alcove, and you would usually have a painting like here, and sometimes they would switch it out depending on the season. So there's a lot of things in Japan where it's always in tune with the seasons, and so you would have like a summer picture if it's summertime, a fall picture if it's autumn, and the little bonsai there. I love that. Okay, but then we go to here. Oh, go back here. The father's goes to the storehouse, and he gets the. And this is a very typical type of box, traditional Japanese box. And you would keep valuables, family heirlooms in. I just love this. Love this hilt design on it. And then, and again, once again, you got the swirling lines, conveying the sense of motion that's going on. Now, the drawings here, this style, the box that we just saw, this is a typical type of, I don't know the exact word in English for this or even in Japanese, but it's like an engraving style that is a typical adornment on like the lids of those boxes. And I really like how they used that to convey the story of how the Jedi came to Tao and brought that lightsaber and then just flew away. And that's just, and this looks like bamboo to me. Sorry, this looks like bamboo to me up here. Got the little cloud thing. Just so Japanese. But again, it doesn't feel out of place at all. And then he gives her the lightsaber, and he tells her that Sasuke rareru toki, tatoe chi no tsunagari nakuto mo tsuyoku musaberu tomi ni ari. Yeah. The Jedi symbol. Yep. No, it's just really well done. A shot of Lop taking it. Sushin de uke shimasu. Ah, it's very great. It's, you've seen scenes like this in like older Jidai Geki of like somebody getting like a special sword and they're taking it like that. It's a really cool shot. Oops, sorry. I just skipped ahead of myself a little bit. There we go. Go back. And the father tells her that the family's done, and then, oh, he's gonna go off. Again, this is straight out of Jidai Geki. You see this type of hat. it'd be worn by like you see like samurai wear it. You see like Buddhist priests be on pilgrimages going around Japan wearing this type of hat. Oh, and here we go. Going back to, he says aitsu. He's literally saying her, but the kanji next to it is ocho, which is obviously your sister's name. And ocho is in Japanese, ocho means butterfly. So I thought that was a really interesting naming choice for one of the characters. And we got the father going off. That's just such a cool shot. And you go down here. We got the Imperial Star Destroyer. And then this is where they do the flashback to show how Lop came to be in part of their family. I think that's really interesting that they chose to do it here. I don't know if you can see the characters, but these characters, they're not exactly kanji, but they're made to look like kanji. Yeah, but then this is showing how they came to find Lop and bring her into the family. And they take him down to the beach. This shot reminded me of a place I've been to in Shizuoka. The mountains over here, there's peninsula called the Izu Peninsula in Shizuoka. It's about 2 hours if traffic's good from here. And there's this bay is called Sagami Wan. It's between Izu Peninsula and Kanagawa Prefecture. But you can see Mount Fuji across the water at that place. And this little shot here made me think of that. I don't know if that was their intention, but it just naturally, anybody who's been to that area of Japan or even knows from Mount Fuji, that would come to mind. And then we got the final showdown here where they're trying to stop the Empire, and father's trying to get the daughter to come back home even though he knows she's not going to. The art here is just so good. Again, everything's in the eyes. All in the eyes. All in the eyes. All in the eyes again. And the father never breaks from using his dialect. Whereas the daughter is using the more standard dialect. And then gets into and now he's lost both of his eyes and you can't see. Then you got the two daughters facing off against each other. Lop showing more affection. I mean, even though she's not by blood, she's still a part of the family, and that's why the father gave her the family heirloom, which is much to the chagrin of her older sister. Again, really great action shots. And you can probably see my fingers have gotten a little dirty because this is the unfortunate thing about these big bunch style comics. They're made on cheaper quality of paper, and so the ink can rub off quite easily on your fingers. And then we got, it's just fantastic. I mean, the blurred lines, the curves, is, again, the magic of a still image using the power of line to convey motion. So, profanity in Japanese works a little bit different than English. I mean, they do have like curse words, but the way you really like make something sound more intense and like adding in like a expletive to something is you strip your language down and make it more blunt. So normally you would be saying yurusanai here, or if you were being a little bit polite, it'd be like yurusumasen. But she is just going all out and showing her displeasure at Lop. So she's just, I mean, it's repeated here, yurusane, which is just about as low as you can go with that. So it's very, very harsh. And yeah, you can't quite, it carries a lot more conviction in a sense than it would in English. And then in the end, yeah, she's asking her to go back home. And then she's like, no. Oh yeah, nani ga kasuku da? What family? What kind of family are you talking about? And then TD, oh poor TD, he's destroyed. And Lop's in tears. And then she picks up the sword. And she says, Akiraminai. So she's not as hateful in her language as Ultra is. Like, if she was going to be a little bit more hateful, she'd be Akiraminai. But she didn't say that. She's Akiraminai. So she's more resolute. She's not as pissed off as her sister. And here she goes. She's like, 私が取り戻す本当の姉さんの取り戻す I'm gonna bring back my real sister, or actually more like I'm gonna bring my sister back to her real self. Yeah, something like that. Oh, just gorgeous. The action here, I almost feel this is more intense because with manga and in just any type of printed medium, you can take your time and you can pause and gaze longer on the images in front of you, whereas like a motion picture anime, it's constantly moving, so you're just taking along with the story as it unfolds in front of you. Oh, just look at that. That's so good. And then you got cherry blossoms in the background. So you got this really serene nature, and then right in front of you, you just got this intense fight and this juxtaposition of nature, technology, serenity, and conflict. All in just one shot there. Fantastic. And go in there. And she uses this. And she says, Nisan gomen. And she apologizes for doing that. But then her sister jumps away and decides to go the Empire. And her father asks, is it done? And she's like, yes, it's done. And it closes. Because we can be a real family. Sono jingi. Oh, there's another word that you see a lot in Yakuza films. Jingi, chivalry, code. Sono jingi shoujo no senaka ni sugarareru. So, and she's going to pass on. She's going to take up the mantle of that code. It's really, really great. And here it tells us the next one is Kyunin Mei no Jedi. Now, I think I'm going to save the Mandalorian for another time. Gonna spent a lot of time talking about Lop and Ocho. As you can probably tell, I really, really enjoyed that vision. It's one of my favorites of them all. So next video installment, I will maybe I'll do the 9th Jedi, and then I'll do like a combination of the 2 Mandalorian chapters, because I mean, just here you can get a quick look. The art looks great, but I think there's a lot more to digest in these Visions manga and in the Visions anime. So that was Lop and Ocho. Next time will either be the 9th Jedi manga version or maybe the double feature of the Mandalorian installment in this version of Gan Gan and in the following months. So thank you for watching.